Welcome, my friend. Sit, drink, and let me tell you the tale of the Seal Woman. A young farmer named McCodrum was beachcombing one morning, walking along the edge of the sea looking for objects that had been washed ashore. He wanted a good piece of wood for his barn, the kind with useful iron bolts still embedded in it. Toward midday, he sat down for a rest, leaning back against a rock and watching the sunlit bay. Suddenly he saw a glinting, dark shape bobbing in the waves. It was the head of a seal. Then there was another, and another. They were coming ashore. The seal squirmed across the wet sand to some rocks near his without seeing him. In a few moments he wondered if he was dreaming. One after the other, they peeled away their sleek black skins and were no longer seals. They were beautiful women instead, who went racing back into the sea to swim and splash in the noon sun. McCodrum watched them. One of the young seal women was even more beautiful than the rest. She had the most musical, soft cry and was the quickest and most graceful swimmer. He slipped behind the rocks to where the sealskins had been left, and sure enough, one of them had a deeper, more silky black sheen than the others. He thought it must be hers. He gathered up that shining sealskin and started back towards the rock, but the seal women had seen him and came running out of the waves. They slipped into their skins and became their seal selves again, hurrying down into the water and out to sea. They had all left except one. The seal woman whose skin McCodrum held in his arms waited on the beach for him to give it back. She pleaded, "My skin is no use to you, but I cannot return to the sea without it. My home is in the depths of the waters, not here on land." McCodrum was saddened by her pleading, but he would not give back the skin. He knew he was making her homeless, but he was crazed with love and selfish. He turned and walked along the shore towards his own home. She followed a long way behind, crying pathetically and calling to him to give her back the furry skin. McCodrum only called back, "Come home with me instead." He decided where he would hide the skin when he came to his farm. When the seal woman finally crept exhausted into his yard, McCodrum no longer held the skin in his hands. He had hidden it in his small barn. The seal woman realized she was in McCodrum's power. When he asked her to stay with him, she could not refuse. The only way she could ever get back to the sea was by finding her seal clothing. McCodrum guessed at her silence, thinking it must be homesickness for the sea world. He decided to hide the skin in a safer place. When the next corn was harvested, he hid the skin in a haystack. It stayed there until the following spring, when the hay was needed for the cattle. Then McCodrum brought it into the barn again, until the next stack was built. One morning in the late spring, the children came skipping into the kitchen. They had been playing in the barn, helping their father bring in the hay, and carried on chattering away about their games. Their mother wasn't really listening, but she suddenly heard the words, "beautiful coat of fur." She stopped what she was doing. "And why wouldn't our father let us try it?" the youngest girl was saying. "What's that?" their mother asked. "Oh, nothing. Our father has a beautiful fur in the barn, but we couldn't play with it." "A fur in the barn?" "Aye, up in the rafters, but he wouldn't let us even stroke it." The next morning, when her husband was out in the fields, the seal woman went to the barn and found her seal's clothing. When she touched it again, her body shuddered with longing for the sway of the waves. As she brushed the pieces of straw away, it shone as lustrously as before, like the sea under a full moon. She put it back in its hiding place and went to call her children. They came into the kitchen, and she took the youngest on her knee. "I'm going away for a while, children, but I'll be back, and you'll want for nothing. There'll be plenty of bread and fish, so be good to your father. Now go and play." Off they ran. She went to the barn and took down the furry skin. She walked over the fields to the sea. She sat on a rock, ready to dress herself and become a seal again. She looked out to sea, thinking of her children and her husband. Even with freedom in her hands, she was imagining the children's voices. Then, out in the glittering bay, she saw small, silky heads and backs turn and flash. In a few moments she was a seal again with the others, hurling herself through the clear waters under the waves out to the open sea. Her husband realized what had happened when the children told him that their mother was going away for a while. She had gone back home. McCodrum spent many days and moonlit nights wandering along the shore, hoping for a glimpse of her. He knew he would recognize her, even among a crowd of bobbing seal heads. Then one morning he saw a seal come ashore with a fish in its mouth, making a crying sound as it went writhing off over the sand. He knew that it was his wife leaving food for her children. He knew that he should not have taken her from her home. And one day, when the wind was strong and the waves thundered, he shouted aloud, "Forgive me for taking you from the sea. It was wrong. Please forgive me." Then he said it every day. After that, the seal came every day to the rocks near his house and left fish there. He told his children that eventually their mother would come home, and after a while he began to believe it himself. He believed it most when he heard what sounded like a voice singing above the roar of the waves, like a mother singing to her children. And so ends the tale of the Seal Woman. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Have a safe journey home, my friend, and I hope to see you again very soon.